Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. We're the Movie Couple. I'm Dustin.
I'm Wendy.
And here's our review for episode 6 of Lovecraft Country.
And of course, as always, before we get into the review, it is a spoiler review. We're going to be diving right into it. So if you're not caught up, because we're usually a little late on this, so if you've already caught up with the episode, you can feel free to keep watching, stay tuned to get into all the good spoiler talk. If you have not watched, if you're not caught up, and you don't want it spoiled for you, we suggest you go ahead and put a big pause on this video, bookmark it, or save it in your watch later list, and come on back after you've watched the show, which if you haven't started yet, what are you waiting for? Go do it now. It's so good. Each episode have gotten better and better.
And a little crazier and crazier each episode.
Yes. And that is your spoiler warning. And here we go with the spoiler talk. So this episode is episode 6. It's called Meet Me. I'm looking down my notes. Meet Me in Daegu. And then just a quick pause before we continue. If you hear crinkling, it's because I got a bag of ice that I'm icing my thumb because I burned myself with the oven. Everything's going great. And
We're fine.
We're back.
We're fine here.
Okay. So Meet Me in Daegu. This is the Jamie Chung episode I have been waiting. We have all been waiting for.
Yeah, we're like, what's going on with her? Who is she? What's the backstory? We got a very interesting story from this episode.
Yeah, so this goes back to all the way when Tik was in the war. He was in South Korea, which is where Jamie Chung's character Jia is located in. And interesting thing about her, because everything we've known so far prior to this episode, we really thought that she was a nurse. That's how her and Tik met. He was injured. She nursed him back to health. They had according to Tik, when he told Letty, like, oh, there was someone, we had a thing. We also saw Tik calling her in episode 1, and also in the previous episode, like, how'd you know? How'd you know? I was like, no, what? Tell us what?
So it always leaves you right on the cliffhanger up until this episode, to where we just get little tidbits here and there throughout the season. But yeah, then this was just all exposition.
Yes.
And I'd have to say probably about 90 to 80% of this episode is all in Korean.
Oh my gosh, my little K-drama heart is so happy, because I wasn't sure. Like, I expected, like maybe 50-50 or 40-60, to know that it was more like 90-10 mostly for the episode. 80-20. Well, we'll say 80-20, because when Tik came in, they would have to, switch to English, because he didn't know much Korean. So I loved it. I love that the setting is in South Korea. So guess what? They're speaking Korean. And also, this job, and Jamie Chung kind of tweeted out about this, and I know this is not a part of spoiler talk, but she was grateful and she was so happy. She was posting photos of all the Asian Americans that were, there for this. It just makes me so happy. Like, look, representation matters, diversity rules. Okay, I am done. So yeah, it's really interesting to kind of see Jia's story, because she has this very conversation with her mother. She started off very kind of playful. They're making kimchi. She puts a little too much spice on it. And I was like, oh no. And it kind of, briefly talked about how after her father died, the neighbors haven't invited them to dinner or to, can't remember the name of it, but, and she was Jia was trying to reassure her mom, like, hey, look, when I'm done with school, I have a degree. They're going to want to interact with us again. There's, like, no shame in this family. And I was like, oh, is it because, like, they lost her dad and, she lost her dad and they're poor? Like, that's kind of, like, a crappy way to treat people.
Yeah, they did kind of a very slow build on this to, like, okay, they're outsiders, but why exactly? Because this doesn't quite seem to fit what they're saying. And then it builds a little bit more, even though now that I'm remembering it, I'm kind of like, oh, that was an interesting little back and forth between
about the neighbors.
About the neighbors, about her father, and the more you learn about it, I'm kind of like, oh, wait a second, I'm wondering now if I went back and watched that scene, would there be some subtext that I miss?
Well, now that we know what we know, probably. But they also did talk about her mom kind of changed tones right away, like, you got to bring home a man. And at the time, you and I both thought, because she's got to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Like, marry a rich guy, and then their finances will be taken care of, which is similar plot that we've heard in many other stories as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and not just in like Asian stories.
Yeah.
It's kind of a theme like for time period, like you marry rich, you'll be taken care of. You never
And you
to
have
work.
to have a man in the family kind of a thing.
And that's kind of what we thought until go ahead.
Until the story progressed, and we find out that she's a very awkward. She's trying to be a nurse. She has a friend. They go out.
She loves movies. Yeah.
That's how the episode started with Judy Garland, a Judy Garland movie, and she's just sitting there loving Judy Garland.
So cute.
But we find out that bringing home a man meant something completely different.
Well,
than
you
what
knew
we
something was
had.
wrong when she lit one candle, and all of them go poof. I was like, that's not natural. She is. Something else is. Something. And I thought it was the room or something externally was going to come and like, you know what I mean? Like shadows coming out of the ceiling or something like that. And
It was very internal.
And at first I was like, what? Okay, so because you saw the tail, and I was like, and my head immediately went to the Nine Tails, like the demon, which we've seen in many iterations of stories. If you watch anime, you probably are most familiar with it. Like most popularly in Naruto, but if you're more versed in like anime and Asian culture, then you know about this. There's many iterations. This one specifically, it's called I'm gonna get this right, Kumiho, and she takes the men's souls after they have an encounter.
Very graphically, and I don't know what it is about this show and getting the women that are involved in the show completely covered in blood. I mean, blood and gore, and
this is the
more
two
than
most
once.
because with Ruby and Gia, I would
Yeah,
say
yeah.
these two so far, and I guess Christina as well because she had her own little transformation moment. But that would be the top two most gruesome. We haven't seen Letty covered in much blood. Some, but not like buckets dumped over their head. Where Letty is breaking out of someone else's body and Gia literally has a man exploding over hers. But yeah, the creepy part was when the Nine Tails, the demon part of her, was coming out. You saw the tail, and I was like, okay. But then it came out of her other orifices, like her ears, her nose, her eyes, which I found interesting because that's when she kind of saw their soul and took their memories. So of all the things she knows, she's learning from these men's experiences, which you saw with the man climbing the mountain, and then before he exploded. And it just felt weird because I thought it looked like the tails maybe had teeth.
Some of them it looked like they had little hooks on them.
Little white thingies on it. I was like, what is, that's not what, I don't know about that. But it was very in theme with Lovecraft Country. So.
But then we find the dark secret of what Gia actually was.
Yeah.
The fact that she wasn't just
Gia,
Gia, she was also a demon, that she had to take 100 souls in order to finally leave the body, and she was summoned by the mom.
Because the mom went to a shaman. And basically the mom went to a shaman because here's what, and I could be like a little bit wrong because there was a lot going on in this episode. What I gathered, and please correct me in the comments, kindly, if you will, is I believe Gia's mom was pregnant with her out of wedlock. So then she went and married this man who became her husband. And this husband, quote unquote, loved Gia, basically raped her.
Yeah, he was a child molester.
Yeah, basically. Disgusting. And mom was like, no, that's not happening. And went to the shaman and then summoned the nine-tailed demon. And then, so kind of the monster now lives inside her daughter, and in order for the spirit to leave the body, she would have to take 100 souls. So that man, that was the mountain climber, was soul number 99, and she was going to take one more.
Actually, I think that was number 90.
Oh, yes,
she still
you're
had
right.
like 10 more to go.
Yeah, you're right, sorry.
One of the things that was so creepy was the fact that when she took the memories, true, she knew everything and about that person's life. So I'm assuming that the first soul that this demon took was the father. So all of those memories that he had of his daughter it's made it seem like the demon actually knew
Gia.
Or Gia was still in there somewhere, but it was 100% the demon and the memories that she had through the father's soul that he took, or it took.
Yes.
But what just made it so heart-wrenching was the fact that when they were having an argument, the demon and Gia's mom were having this conversation. She was humming a tune. Gia was humming a tune.
The nursery rhyme.
And she's like, see, my daughter's in there somewhere because I sang her that nursery song. And she goes, no, the reason why I know it is because that was the tune that your husband sang when she...
No, that Gia was singing when he was raping her.
Oh, okay. It was Gia that would sing it. Okay. I thought it was the other way around.
I mean, you could be right, but I'm
no,
pretty sure.
I missed a lot. There's a lot of things that I was like, I think that's what they said, just because I'm a terrible reader. But I was just like, oh, that was just like a gut punch to me. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Just like a whole bunch of other things in this show. There's just so many moments that you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah. But nonetheless, she continues with her studies as a nurse. She has a friend there who was a, what do they call them?
Communist sympathizer.
Yes.
Which is not good during the Korean War when America was hunting down commies.
And unfortunately, that is what happened. They found out that there was a spy, and they kind of narrowed it down to the nurse who was working this one particular shift. Mm-hmm. And they, just slaughtered them. It was so brutal, and I feel unnecessary. It served the story, obviously, because it created the conflict and the rage for Gia to kind of want to seek revenge against these people and be really, really angry about losing her best friend in this way. But they had, like, the nurses on their knees, lined them up, and just was kind of like, it didn't even confirm. It was like, well, it was you, and one girl kind of said, I don't know, and just shot her anyways. And I was like, what if it was? So,
I'm wondering...
and like 3 girls died because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I'm
more.
wondering how accurate scenes like that are. I mean, it doesn't seem like that would be a very effective method, but it seems like...
They were seen as expendable.
People who would have been under that kind of stress and pressure, that's something that they would have done. So, I'm just like... what would have happened if you actually shot the spy in the first place?
And then everyone else was
everyone's like, I don't know. I'm not a part of this.
Then he shoots all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Maybe their mentality was better all of them dead than one spy being alive. But it's at the same token, you're killing the nurses who are nursing your soldiers back to health. So why would you do that? Because from the looks of it, the hospitals were very, very crowded.
Yes.
And there were a lot of wounded. It's war. So anyways, Atticus happens to be the one that, because the guy's not the executioner, but the main guy, his gun jammed, and he goes and grabs Atticus, and Atticus shoots the girl that was right next to Gia, and literally shot. He probably almost could have killed her, because by the way the bullet would have been traveling, if he had just like moved over a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because like her brain like landed on her. It was so
chunks.
Brutal. And I love and hate. I hate that it's this brutal and this like kind of just awful. But I love that they didn't shy away from showing how brutal war can be.
Yeah.
And why people have PTSD coming out of war. To show something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
So Gia had this hatred and this desire to kill Atticus, but then through meeting him in the hospital, and she kind of finds out he's kind of in the same situation that I am. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to do the things
he's just trying
that
to
he's
serve
being
his
told.
time, and it's not serve his time, but
he was running away from home. He was like, he
volunteered. He wasn't drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they actually have this romance for a little bit. And
it was cute. He made a movie theater for her. They did little dances. She was his first.
That was Gia was his first.
And that's when she declared, no, I am not taking this soul. This one's different. I finally feel something. And there was obviously a lot more conversation between Gia and Mom about this. And eventually, one of the days
They had sex a couple of times.
They
had a couple hot steamy scenes.
It was very HBO. It was
very HBO. Mm-hmm.
But Gia, I think, felt conflicted because she was like, well, I gotta come clean about this eventually.
And it looked like she was going to.
Well, she started to read him the story about the Kumiho spirit, and he was kind of like, okay, nice story, and they get to the hanky-panky, and
she loses
control of her tales, and he sees it. And that is where that moment connects us to the previous episode of how it ends, with her seeing not just his past, but his future. Now, keep in mind, she has taken, at this point, 99 souls. And none of those 99 times has she seen someone's future, except with Atticus. So she was like, oh my god, you can't go home, you're gonna die. And he was like, what the F are you? And having the most natural reaction to this.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised that he would actually call her back up ever again. Because this is one of those things that you would legitimately be incredibly freaked out, creeped out. And did I actually see what I saw? And I'm never going back. Oh my god, I am running like hell.
You know, it's interesting. In one of the previous reviews that we did for this show, I feel like I said, oh, you know, Atticus never really encountered, like, actual, you know, monsters in the ways of, like, being treated and racism and injustice and this and that. So he's seen monsters of that type.
Yeah.
But he hadn't seen, like, Lovecraft-type monsters, like, fantastical monsters.
Yeah.
That's what I had said, not knowing this episode was coming, and he actually had seen a monster, so I take all of that back.
So, yeah, it seems, I mean, because then he saw the monsters in episode 1, and you would think he would, like, almost be like, I'm wondering if all of this is connected. I'm wondering if that's why he actually ended up calling her back the very first time, but didn't want to talk to her. He's scared of her. He's like, okay, this is kind of freaky. I had this freaky experience, and now I'm having even freakier experiences. But we won't know until...
later on. But she does see him. She told him, like, you're going to die. Don't go back home. Obviously, he found, once he translated, you know, the pages, the letters DIE was on the letter, so that's why he was like, how'd you know? And I wanted to be like, she looked at your soul and your future, she knows everything about you. And it's not quite resolved because they go back, Gia and Mom goes back to the shaman again, and was like, and she basically explained, hey, I've never been able to see someone's future, and I saw this, and so very curious to see where that goes from there. I hope this is not the last. I don't think so.
Yeah. And it seemed
like the last we'll see of Gia.
They were going there so the mom can take the demon onto herself and her daughter can actually have a real life.
I wonder if she has to start over. If she does that, if mom takes the spirit inside of her, can she just be at like the 99 and just take the one, or does she have to start all over because it's a new human?
I don't know.
That would suck.
I don't know. They did not explain that. I'm very curious.
I feel like we'll find out. But it was such a great, I really, really enjoyed episode 5. I really enjoyed episode 6. It really seems like we're ramping up for the big finish. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And also, just to, like, my hat off to Jamie Chung. She's done a lot of work. This is my favorite performance of her.
Yeah,
this is my favorite performance of hers, and that is the sentence. Like, nothing else. She was fantastic. The character had different layers, different emotions. I love Jamie Chung in this role. I really, really, really loved it.
She did a really good job.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. So I was just checking my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything, but I don't think so. Halfway through, I stopped taking notes. I was just kind of like, I'm so, because it was in Korean, so I also had to read the subtitles. My Korean is very, like, I know the very basics, so not enough for me to be able to pick up everything naturally. But love this episode. I can't wait to see. I mean, I feel like there are more questions. Obviously, next week we will see what's going on with Hippolyta and the orrery.
Oh yeah,
Need to know more about that. There is so much more, and I actually can't wait to get to the part about Gia in the book. In the book, I just barely got to Atticus's before the mansion came down.
Oh, okay.
I'm so early on. I'm so early on in that.
You're still
book.
like episode 2.
Yeah. So no, I like it that way because I want to be able to kind of see what they changed and what they didn't, and I like seeing it. I'm liking both a lot. honestly, with both how the TV variation and the original source material. So anything else to add before we close out the review?
Incredibly good episode. I encourage you. I'm assuming if you've gotten this far in the video, you've already seen it because we just spoiled pretty much everything. But comment below. Tell us what are some of your favorite parts in this episode. How much are you loving the show? And what are some of your theories about what's going to happen? I'd love to kind of see Gia come up and like end up helping Atticus out kind of thing to try and save her. And now he's got a demon on his side.
If
kind
she
of a
kept
thing.
the demon and she goes full-fledged like out, fighting some monsters, that would be a sight to see. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that and to see the cultural differences between like Lovecraft monsters and some Korean folklore monsters kind of thing. So I'm excited to see where this leads. But tell us what you think. Like, share, subscribe, and unless you got something else to say.
Nope.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.